What's up, everybody? It's your girl Toyzilla. All right, tonight is another episode of Book Club, and we're still reading *The Looking Glass Wars* by Frank Bader. Now, we're starting today on chapter 43 and doing chapters 44 and 45. If you haven't, if you're new and you haven't read the before chapters, go ahead to our YouTube channel. Just search Toyzilla and look for our little bear bot symbol, and you'll be able to find the rest of the videos. But if you are cut up, welcome back. Like I always say, ooh, my book's got a little bit of a bend in it. Like I always say, if while you're reading you're inspired to do some artwork, go ahead and do it. Let's see what's happening in your mind. And if you want to send it in, just leave a comment below. And then I'll let you guys know where to send it to once I start getting some authors on those artwork. And I'll make something for it. We'll see. That depends on you guys. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, alright? See what happens to Alice the Hatter and everybody else. Right? Chapter 43. Surprisingly, Bibwood Hart did not have a pair of gemstone fire crystals tucked anywhere in his scholar's robe, so they had to build a fire the old-fashioned way, with the suns and a pile of dead branches. The volcanic plains were behind them, and they had made camp next to a wide river en route to the Valley of Mushrooms. Dodge wrapped a dampened leaf around Bibwood's burn and tied it with strong vine. Bibwood tested the movement of his arm, grimacing and perhaps making more of his injury than was necessary, because Dodge, with a quick glance at General Doppelganger, said, "We might have to cut it off." Bibwood fell still, too horrified to speak. "You can tutor just as well with one arm as with two, can't you?" Bibwood's mouth opened and closed, but nothing came out. Dodge and General Doppelganger sputtered with laughter. "I'm just teasing, Bibwood," Dodge said. "You'll be fine." "Oh," Bibwood said uneasily, a bit of levity to ease the burden we're under. "Yes, ha ha." But he hugged his injured arm close until Dodge and the General settled into sleep. Regaining his usual composure, he took a seat next to the princess. "Now, Alice, we shall have that lesson of ours that keeps getting put off. Lucky for us, I have memorized most of the necessary books." Alice nodded, but she was in no mood for a lesson. The day itself had been a lesson in survival. "I will close my eyes for a moment," continued Bibwood, "to file through all that's in my head for the appropriate material. It will just take a moment." But as soon as the tutor shut his eyes, he began to snore, his ears opening and closing with each breath. Alice smiled, a tired smile, and pulled the ends of his robe about him as a blanket. She moved to the other side of the fire to let him sleep undisturbed. As it had long ago, on the first night with Quigley and the orphans in the London alley, her mind was plagued by too much to allow her any rest. How did it work when I was young? Her ability to conjure objects from the strength and depth of her imagination. How had it worked? She'd been lucky with the muzzle. She hadn't intended to conjure such a thing, had only tried to imagine Dodge safely out of the spider's sticky clutches. Hatter sat beyond the fire's glow, cleaning his weapons, his top hat beside him. He removed first his left wrist bracelet and then his right, and set about wiping their blades with a leaf. Alice had never seen a milliner without his bracelets. He looked so much like an ordinary Wonderlander. Indeed, especially now, as Hatter paused in his work to strip off his long outer coat and lay it on the ground beside him. Without his coat and the telltale weapons, there was nothing in his appearance to distinguish him from any normal adult male Wonderlander. He must have hopes, dreams, loves, and sorrows outside his duty, as anyone does. Strange that I should know so little about him when he's devoted his life to protecting my family. He caught her looking at him. She smiled in apology, as if she had been intruding. Hatter went back to his cleaning. The thing about when she was young, she didn't remember her imagination having to work. It just was. "Hatter." "Yes, princess." When you're fighting in a battle, what do you think about? Hatter considered. Nothing, princess. Nothing at all. So you don't tell yourself, I'm going to throw my top hat and then I'm going to attack with the blades on my wrist or anything of that sort? No. No. Alice echoed. Of course not. It just happens. Your body knows what to do. Hatter nodded. It's unconscious. To will something into being, the willing of it must be so deep down that no self-doubt is possible. The imaginative power itself must be a given, a thing already proven that cannot be disbelieved. Lunar hours passed, and at first Alice was all too aware of her efforts to conjure, all too aware of the items that attempted to imagine into being. A platter, a sword, a crown. A platter, a sword, a crown. She repeated these words over and over again to herself. No crown materialized. Part of a platter did form, but quickly vanished. A sword appeared, but in outline only, plain and without detail, as if the weapon had not been precisely envisioned. With time, the fire died down to a heap of glowing embers. Alice's mind cleared. While she was in this trance-like state, a large glass cover akin to one you might see over a cake in a bakery formed in the air. Alice looked at it without surprise. She tilted her head to the left and the glass cover tilted left. She tilted her head to the right and the cover tilted right. Then, without moving at all, she brought it down over the fire. Robbed of oxygen, the embers fizzled out. The glass cover dissolved in the air. Alice beamed, for not only had she conjured, but she had controlled her imagination in a way she never had before. I'll need practice. I'll need to... Oh. Hatter was watching her, had witnessed this first controlled exercise of her powerful imagination. He bowed his head in respect. Then came a final honking snore and Biblet awoke, shivering and hugging himself. It is chilly without the fire, isn't it? Chapter 44. With the queendom's looking glasses obliterated, Red again turned her anger on Jack of Diamonds. I grant you a leniency that others don't enjoy. Why? Because it's supposed to benefit me. I let you believe you're your own boss. In exchange, you're to provide me with Alice and intelligence. As queen, I command the better end of all deals, and it doesn't fill me with glee, Lord Diamond, that you've been profiting from treachery. Your Imperial, Red made a shooting motion with her hand, and Jack slammed against the wall of the observation dome. The cat's tail whisked back and forth, happy and playful. What am I to do with you? Red asked. Maybe you could, Jack began. The cat raised a paw. I know. It was a rhetorical question, fools. You don't answer it. Since when do I need help making anyone suffer? This time the cat and Jack of Diamonds knew better than to answer. Red stepped up to Jack and stroked his wig. She held one of its long curls against her palm, studying it at a moment. With sudden ferocity, she yanked the curl from the wig and tossed it away from her. The lock of hair lay on the floor, growing in size and hairiness. It grew and grew, developing arms and legs until it stood at twice Jack's height. Lord Diamond, say hello to my beast of a wig, Red yawned. Before Jack could offer a greeting, the beast dealt him a stinging blow to the stomach. He doubled over, straining for air. The wig beast picked him up and tossed him across the room. He landed with a thud, worthy of his girth, and with a single bound the wig beast was beside him, lifting him to his feet, holding him upright with one wiggy limb and slapping him with the other. The cat purred, a wide grin on his face as he watched Jack of Diamonds suffer, but his enjoyment was interrupted by the sharp-as-a-claw piercing of Red's voice, raised in anger and disbelief. Red had turned in imagination's eye on Alice. She should have seen nothing. Alice should have been part of the void, But instead she saw the princess, Hatter Madigan, and the others walking through the charred and molten landscape of the volcanic plains. "Not dead!" she screeched. "Alice, not dead!" Jack heard the words too, but it took a moment for his addled brain to understand their meaning. Between slugs from the wig beast, he managed to say, "They're going to the looking glass maze." Red held up a hand and the wig beast halted. "I must be getting soft, Lord Diamond, if I think you could have said anything worth listening to." It was lucky for Jack that Red had shrugged off the lessons Bibwood tried to teach her in adolescence. Jack was quick to understand that his knowledge of the looking glass maze could save his life, but he would tell her as little as necessary. His future health and safety might depend on his leaking such valuable intelligence to Red. "The looking glass maze, your imperial viciousness. By passing through the maze, Alice will reach her full potential of strength and imaginative power and be able to defeat you." "But I have the heart crystal. She can't reach her full potential without that." "I'm only repeating what I heard from Bibwood Hart, your imperial viciousness." He shouldn't have mentioned Bibwood. Red bristled. Jack cast a quick glance at the wig beast. It was perfectly still, as if it had never been alive. So far, so good. "What if I pass through the maze instead of her?" Red asked. "Ah, very clever, your imperial viciousness. Ah, very clever, your imperial viciousness. If you pass through the maze, then you'll be that much more powerful. I'm sure Alice won't be able to defeat you then." What Jack of Diamonds knew of the looking glass maze could fit in a Gwanu's third nostril, which was very little. As a boy, he'd often heard his mother recall in bitter tones how Princess Genevieve had passed through the maze to become queen, but she didn't know that becoming queen was not just a matter of navigating the maze. None of the Diamond clan had been tutored by Bibwood Hart, so none of them knew that only the person for whom the looking glass maze was intended could enter it. But like many young men who grew up as privileged as Jack of Diamonds, he didn't suspect his own ignorance. "We'll see if what you say is true," Red said. "Bring me in Queendom's Paramus." The walrus toddled into the dome. "Here it is, your imperial viciousness." And Queendom, the book flew from his flippers, hovered in the air before Red as she thumbed through its pages, searching for mention of the looking glass maze. She found none. She saw pages torn from the book and her own words in Bibwood's handwriting. "Bah!" She swatted the book and it flew at the walrus, but the waddly fellow ducked and the book hit the floor and skidded out the dome and down the hall. "I'll get it, your imperial viciousness," said the walrus butler, and hurried after the book, never able to leave Red's company fast enough. Red strolled up to Jack, all the more frightening for her nonchalance. "And now, my unworthy servant, you are going to tell me where the looking glass maze is." "But I don't know where it is." Red's fingers twitched, and Jack thought he saw the wig beast move. "The Allisons don't know either," he said quickly. "The caterpillars have to tell them." "The caterpillars?" "Those annoying, oversized larvae?" Red had tried to do away with them and their outdated prophesizing when she first took control of the queendom. She didn't need those things breeding dissent with their predictions, but every time she tried to attack them, they saw her coming and vanished like smoke. So she had exercised her rage on their beloved Valley of Mushrooms. But what to do now? A raid on the valley would not serve her purpose. "I have decided to let Alice meet with the caterpillars," she announced. "We'll maintain close surveillance on that goody-goody little heart, and when she leads us to the looking glass maze's location, we'll attack, and I will enter it myself. Cat, bait the seekers." "But what about Lord Diamond?" the feline whined. "He may prove useful yet." Jack gave Red's furry assassin a taunting little smile. The cat was to blame for his trouble, the bruises he felt forming all over his body. He would have to return the favor somehow. I see you don't treasure your lives as much as I'd suppose, cat, or you would have obeyed my order by now, Red said. As the cat sulked off to bait the seekers, Red again focused her imagination's eye on Alice. How wonderfully cruel it was going to be. Miss Prissy Heart would serve as personal guide to the Looking Glass maze, and thereby become the agent of her own downfall. How deliciously nasty! The cat could hear the seeker's frenzied screeching even before he reached the end of the corridor, shouldered upon the heavy door, and stepped inside the chamber carved out of Mount Isolation itself. It was impossible to hear his own footfalls or breathing because the seeker's cries, like the sound of pain itself, were so loud. The chamber was dimly lit by faint glowing crystals embedded in the walls. Hundreds of cages hung from the ceiling with several seekers in each of them. Red's bloodhounds, bred out of her distrust and paranoia, creatures with bird of prey bodies and the heads of blood-sucking insects. Walking up and down the chamber, the cat stopped beneath each cage to wave Alice's London wedding dress, a souvenir from his raid on the Allison headquarters. He teased the seekers with its scent, and they pressed eager faces against the bars of their cages. The baiting complete, the cat flipped the lever in the floor, and a wall retracted, a wall that, from the outside, looked like part of the mountain. The cages fell open, and with wild shrieks, the seekers flew out into the night on the hunt. Chapter 45. The Allisons emerged from a small wood to find themselves on a mountain top. The valley of mushrooms spread out before them. The suns were setting on the distant horizon, their slanting rays shining down on the mushrooms nestled within a ring of twilight blue mountains. No two mushrooms were alike, their colors ranging from earthy pink to unearthly brown to nearly translucent, and, with the play of the suns on their caps and the multi-hued shadows they cast on the valley floor, the Allisons were greeted with a sight of impressive kaleidoscopic brilliance. The colors of the valley were like the sprouting of renewed hope in the breasts of Alice and her friends, and for a moment it seemed unlikely that Red could survive their rebellion. They may have been few in number, but they were strong and determined. They believed. But this optimism lasted only a moment, because as they descended into the valley, they saw that it wasn't as beautiful as it might have been, indeed as it once was. Mushroom stalks showed the marks of the cut. Mushroom caps lay butchered on the ground. Prayer temples were blasted apart. In silence, Bibbert led the Allisons through the unexpected desecration to a clearing, where they came upon 5 giant caterpillars whose bodies were coiled beneath them as they smoked from the same ancient hookah. Each of them sat on a mushroom as distant in color as himself, red, orange, yellow, purple, and green. The caterpillars showed no sign of surprise upon seeing the Allisons, had in fact been aware of their presence for some time. "The Caterpillar Council," Bibbert informed the others, and then stepped forward to address the oracles. "Wise ones, we are in need of your assistance. The orange caterpillar raised his frontmost right leg as if to say, "Shush," and all the little legs behind it echoed the gesture. "We know why you've come." "What sort of oracles would we be if we didn't know that?" said the yellow caterpillar. The hookah burbled, the purple caterpillar inhaling deeply. His eyes rolled up into the back of his head, and smoke streamed out his nostrils. "Whoo!" Dodge and General Doppelganger exchanged an uncertain glance. Hatter stood at the ready, a hand at the brim of his top hat, his eyes scanning the surroundings for trouble. "Oh, wise, all-seeing caterpillars," said Bibbert Hart, "we offer you our humility and respect, and hope that—" "I'm having the weirdest sense of deja vu right now," said the green caterpillar. "Duh," said the yellow caterpillar. "Do you think just maybe that's because you predicted this?" "Oh, yeah," the caterpillar council teetered. We are saddened to see that even your home has suffered from Red's reign, Bibwood pressed on. Knowing who we are and why we've come, then you already know. But here the caterpillars added their voices to his. That we come for the health of the queendom, to install the rightful queen on her throne and end those years of brutal tyranny. Being able to see the future and or possible futures didn't always make the caterpillars agreeable conversationalists. Have you brought us anything to munch? Asked the orange caterpillar. Some tarty tarts, perhaps, the yellow caterpillar hoped. Well, Bibwood said, checking his robes but finding no tarty tarts. I'll conjure a dozen tarty tarts. It'll be good practice. Alice started to concentrate, to focus her imaginings when a series of blue smoke rings floated overhead, coming from somewhere deep within the mushrooms. Blue has summoned Alice, the orange caterpillar said. He will tell her everything she needs to know. The council fell silent, puffing intently on their hookah, as if able to communicate with one another through it. Go on, Alice, said Bibwood Hart. It's all right. The princess followed the trail of smoke rings back through the mushrooms to a ruined temple. Over its front door were the words, Did Lao Su dream the butterfly? Or did the butterfly dream Lao Su? Sitting on a blue mushroom out front was the blue caterpillar, smoking from a hookah of his own. Thank you for seeing me, Alice said with a bow. Ahem hum him, the caterpillar grumbled, exhaling a cloud of smoke in the middle of which Prince Leopold appeared. The prince was in London. The prince was in a London drawing room, pacing anxiously back and forth, while his mother, Queen Victoria, sat fanning herself in a quilted chair. Dean and Mrs. Liddell were there too, sitting close together on a settee. Prim and erect, the commoners looked uneasy, cowed by the queen. Is this the past I'm seeing? The present? Even in that world, the caterpillar said, where no one knew you were a princess, you were to marry royalty. It seems that destiny will not let you deny who you are. I don't mean to deny it, Mr. Caterpillar. The caterpillar frowned, puffing at his hookah. Call me Blue. All right. I don't want to deny it, Blue. It's just that my time away from Wonderland has confused me. I've been through so much and all I do is run from those more powerful than myself, which doesn't strike me as being, well, as very queenly. Ahem hum hum, Blue said, and in the cloud of smoke he exhaled from his caterpillar lungs appeared the words, It is sometimes braver to run. By running, you live to face further uncertainty and trouble, he explained. It would be much easier for you to give up. You should not doubt your courage, Alice Hart. She who runs from her enemies until she has the strength to do otherwise is both brave and wise. Funny that it should feel like cowardice. You know why I'm here. You seek the looking-glass maze, as your mother did before you. Alice said nothing, remembering the surprise of seeing her mother engaged so readily in combat. She must have stood before Blue just as I am now. Indeed, and like then, the future of the kingdom had been threatened by Red. Blue seemed to know what she was thinking. Alice Hart, your mother was a warrior queen, as you discovered the hard way. She passed through the maze to assume the throne and to make the most of what she innately possessed, but her strength could only carry her so far. Red was always the stronger of the two, but you, Alice Hart, have the strength of generations in your blood. Successfully navigate the maze and you will discover this for yourself. And if I'm unsuccessful? Blue ignored the question. Everything you have experienced up until now has had to be if you are to become the strongest queen Wonderland has ever known. It has been necessary to forge in you the wise and judicious temperament that will guide you as a protector of the heart crystal. Hatter Madigan will lead you to one who knows where to find the maze. Look for a puzzle shop. You will know the key to the maze when you see it, but you will have to return to Wondertropolis. Blue formed an O with his lips and exhaled a thick stream of smoke directly at the princess. When Alice awoke, she was alone. She walked back to the mushrooms to Dodge and the others. The caterpillar council sat coiled on their mushrooms, smoking contentedly. Their expressions did not change at the sight of Alice, but the Allisons looked at her expectant. "It's back in Wondertropolis," she said. There were groans all around. "That's like entering the Jabberwocky's lair," fretted Bibwit, "or stirring up the Seeker's nest, or—" The green caterpillar puffed a cloud of smoke at the royal tutor. The smoke enveloped him and his expression slackened. "Relaxed." "Oh, well," he grinned. He grinned, dreaming. "I suppose we must do what we must do." "Where in Wondertropolis?" Dodge asked. "I was told only that Hatter can take us to someone who will know." The others turned to the milliner, but even he, who was able to maintain his composure in battles that would have sent most Wonderlanders running for their mother's skirts, was a little exasperated by this. "Me? How can I know anyone? I've hardly been in Wondertropolis in 13 years. The people I knew are all dead." Bibwit, still feeling the efforts of the caterpillar's smoke, put a hand on Hatter's shoulder. "Relax, my good fellow. The Oracle wouldn't say it just to hear himself talk. There's got to be a reason. Relax and think." So Hatter thought. What would he have done 13 years ago? To whom would he have turned for help? Where would he have gone? "There is one place," he said finally. "I don't know if it still exists, but I used to go there whenever official sources didn't yield the information I needed." "Well then, that's where we'll go," General Doppelganger said. "Let's go already," fumed Dodge. He didn't much care if they stirred up the Seeker's nest. On the contrary, he rather welcomed it. And that's the end of chapter 45. Well, thank y'all for continuing on with me as such, doing all this. It's like, oh man, sometimes I do get a little bit tongue twisted, but that story has got me on edge. I'm dying to know what happens. So what's today? It's about 10:28 on the 16th of October, and it's Friday. So that concludes our reading for the week. I'll see y'all next week. Remember our schedule: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We start our video game streams, and after that, we continue book club on each day, about 2 to 3 chapters, depending on how long they are. And I long to see your artwork if you guys make any while reading. Until next time, I'll see you guys later, alright? Be well. And this has been your girl Toyzilla. I am out.